It's been 7 days of a tense calm in Ladakh, which is a bit of an understatement given how tense things actually are. So there's no real question of calm. But 7 days ago, the Chinese had committed to military talks to try and de-escalate the situation. And they are still to come back with a date for those talks. Meanwhile, while China talks of dialogue, it is reluctant to come to the table for those military talks for the past 7 days. Top defense leadership of the country are in a huddle as we speak in Delhi for a high-level meeting to address the current situation in eastern Ladakh. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Chief of Defense Staff General Bipin Rawat and the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval are part of this high-level meeting that's currently on. It is taking place at a time when there have been multiple incidents of firing between August 29th and September 8th in the Pangong area, with troops of India and China opening fire in warning against each other, and the situation has been in steady deterioration ever since, even though for the last 10 days there has been relative calm. The meeting will also discuss the delay in the core commander level talks agreed upon during the foreign ministry level discussions that took place on September the 10th. It has now been a full 8 days since India and China agreed to hold those talks, but China mysteriously is still to get back with a date confirmation. But make no mistake, even while China continues to delay, prevaricate, obfuscate on those talks that it has already agreed to, the Indian military is not waiting for anything to move on the Chinese side. The Indian armed forces are very much keeping themselves active. Missions are happening at a very high tempo. The Indian Air Force, for instance, is in top gear from the Ladakh Leh Air Base, where aircraft, logistics, offensive and defensive operations are happening at a tempo not seen before. Sandeep Unithan was at the Leh Air Base just a few days ago. He sent us this report.
With a roar, a beast returns to base. An Indian Air Force MiG-29 fighter arriving back at the Leh Air Base after a mission over Ladakh. The roar of its twin engines, now a signature sound in this stretch of the Himalayas. And here's a Mirage 2000 in a low pass over the Leh airfield before climbing out for its next mission. On the ground, a pair of formidably armed Apache helicopters lift off. They have their own prowling to do in airspace close to the standoff zone. As winter arrives and Indian Army troops consolidate their positions at dominant heights across the standoff zone, the Indian Air Force is in top gear for both offensive and defensive air operations. Military preparedness in Ladakh has been high for nearly 5 months now. But since the end of August, the tempo of missions has hit a record high. As you can see from these images, the Indian armed forces aren't waiting for China to make a move. They're fully prepared for any eventuality. But China's stubborn refusal to confirm dates for an agreed round of military talks has spurred suspense and added to uncertainties in eastern Ladakh. If you're wondering about the recently inducted Indian Air Force Rafale fighters, India today can confirm to you that the jets have been flying periodic missions over Ladakh. The Indian Air Force chief had dropped a major hint about the aircraft's readiness at the induction ceremony recently.
They have already flown and familiarized with our operational environment and have undergone intense integrated training with our other combat fleets, including firing of advanced weapons. And I expect the golden arrows to intimidate and dominate whenever and wherever employed.
In a scenario unique to the Indian Air Force and representative of its arsenal, air power in Ladakh stands represented by both one of the oldest fighter types in service, the MiG-21, and the newest in the Rafale. Super high altitude, super cold weather, no deterrent to the tempo of air operations. With Sandeep Unithan in Leh, Ladakh, Bureau Report, India Today.
I want you to savor that image once again, because very few people have that kind of amazing vantage position. That MiG-29 fighter landing. Just sit back and enjoy this picture. Let me play it out for you in full from beginning to end. This is a MiG-29 landing in Leh, Ladakh a couple of days ago. And the man behind the camera for that stunning piece of footage from Leh, Ladakh is India Today's executive editor, Sandeep Unithan. He visited Ladakh just a few days ago to film some of the military activity there. And I can assure all of you that, this filming was done with the supervision of the Air Force. So there's nothing classified that Sandeep has brought us. But these are truly stunning pictures. Sandeep, you were right there at the head of this runway, getting this incredible perspective of military operations which are clearly happening at a very high tempo. Tell us what you saw, Sandeep.
Shiv, I can tell you that being at Leh Air Base, the Kushak Bakula Rinpoche Airport, it's almost like being in Aero India before Aero India began. The only difference is that this is in the middle of a very high operational area of the Indian Air Force. Given the situation in Ladakh, it is the place to be for a defense journalist. I mean, you literally have sorties taking off every few hours. You have the MiG-29 that you just showed, the Sukhoi 30s in the air, Mirages coming in from the hinterland. There is this air bridge that's Leh is the other end of an air bridge from the mainland. That's from Chandigarh. You have C-17s and IL-76s bringing provisions. It is an amazing experience, Shiv, to see the full might of the Indian Air Force on display there. And the fact that you have these aircraft on combat air patrol,
Yes,
it's huge signaling, Shiv, from the government of India to warn the Chinese or whoever is out there that they're not going to be taken by surprise when it comes to the air. You have air dominance patrols by the Sukhois and the MiGs and the Mirages. And of course, as we now know, the Rafales also. So the full might of the Indian Air Force is on show there in Leh and Ladakh, Shiv. And the Air Force, what can I say? That the skies with glory there.
Incredible pictures. I mean, this is something that tells you about what the military is doing. They're not sitting there, just waiting for the Chinese to do something. The Chinese are using a lot of delaying tactics for those military talks. But as Sandeep has so beautifully covered in these images, the military has its own rhythm. They've got to keep their own training, their own preparations. And these are not training flights, mind you. Like Sandeep pointed out, Sandeep, correct me if I'm wrong, these are all proper missions that are being flown. These are not war games. These are actual missions.
These are all, most of them are combat air patrols. I've actually seen I've actually seen visuals of these aircraft with full combat loads, with missiles, drop tanks and everything. So they're not doing any practice. Some of them are practicing, but the rest of them, believe it, they are all on combat air dominance patrols. So they're there, they mean business.
Sandeep, thanks very much. Fantastic images that you will see only here on India Today. Look forward to Sandeep's coverage of this on indiatoday.in as well as our magazine. Unprecedented access to India Today's journalists for the unfolding story in Ladakh. With India dominating the key strategic heights in Ladakh, there is uncertainty over the status of Corps Commander level talks. The Chinese side has so far not confirmed dates despite agreeing to these talks 7 days ago. In 7 days, a lot can change when you've got thousands of troops within an eyeball distance to each other. Here's what we think is cooking on the Chinese side. Tense calm doesn't quite describe the situation here. The alarming sound of bullets echoed last through these hills only 10 days ago. A series of firearms escalations that broke a sacred 45-year moratorium. And it is now over a week since the two sides agreed for a 6th round of military-level talks by corps commanders on both sides. 8 days and still no word from the Chinese side on a date.
You can hear the roar of the Mirage 2000 fighter jets and the Su-30 MKIs protecting the Ladakh skies. We also have our troops on ground at the line of actual control. India wants dialogue with China, but borders have to be protected. Also because there is tremendous trust deficit between India and China. What explains this delay in the Corps Commander level dialogue between India and China? I've been here for the past 8 days. There is an uneasy calm at the line of actual control. But that question remains, what explains China's prevarication?
Experts and military sources believe this is signature China. For starters, India's preemptive actions as part of Operation Snow Leopard from August the 29th have diluted China's position of strength in talks, and the PLA may therefore be buying time to mount hostile actions in order to dislodge Indian troops. The truth is, China is fully averse to a quid pro quo situation it was possibly unprepared for. Of course, China may be, as usual, using talks proposals as a smokescreen for some big military action planned. The last round of talks between corps commanders of both sides was on August the 2nd. China has continued to build up even since those talks, with major force increases in the Pangong sector as well as in North Ladakh's Depsang. Despite committing to de-escalation at the last round of talks, the Chinese army has moved artillery brigades, tank regiments and troop columns into both zones, revealing its tried and tested intent of posturing for peace during talks, but keeping its war machines moving non-stop in the most provocative manner. While India has never underestimated an adversary, and history holds many lessons with China, experts on both sides agree that the dynamic of initiative has changed. It is precisely because the Indian army hasn't bent over to Chinese actions, hasn't resigned itself to Chinese movements, and counteracted Chinese aggressions that the PLA finds itself in a situation alien to it in the Indian context. But as the defense minister himself said, not once but twice this week, India is a force for peace. The ball for talks may be in China's court, but this is India's turf. Bureau Report, India Today. I want to go across now to India Today's Gaurav Sawant and Abhishek Bhalla, the two editors who've been reporting more extensively and factually than any others from the front lines of Ladakh. Abhishek, coming to you first, the Corps Commander level talks are still not fixed. It's been 8 days to be precise since the two sides had committed to holding these talks, and there is still no sign of China, reverting with a date. What are you hearing?
Shiv, just like the disengagement got stuck somewhere in the discussions, now it seems that a dialogue has also, come to a situation of a deadlock between the two militaries, even though this was decided during the meeting of the two foreign ministers. It clearly demonstrates that the lines of communication are extremely fragile amid the ongoing tensions. And the last 20 days, as we have been constantly reporting, getting all updates on every little small development that's taken place in eastern Ladakh at the line of actual control, it has really put things out of control, it seems, at several places. There has been a build-up by the Chinese on the southern bank. It's been matched by the Indians. There has been firing incidents on at least 3 to 4 occasions in the last 20 days. Amid all this, it seems highly difficult for a military dialogue to continue, Shiv. This is what I am hearing. It might happen at some point of time, but it doesn't seem that, it will be a lot of results. It's a deadlock. Yes. We can give many adjectives as we want. The situation.
Inspiring Karakoram range.
Gaurav, coming to you. What are you hearing, Gaurav? Because, this is a razor's edge situation in Ladakh. 7 days is a very long time. Anything can change in that time. There are a lot of different theories doing the rounds that the Chinese don't like the fact that they might have to talk to an India which is now in a position of strength, and they're trying to change certain facts before coming back to the talks table. What's going on? What are you hearing?
Shiv, as you very rightly pointed out, Ladakh is on razor's edge. The fact that you see these constant combat air patrols being flown by the Mirage 2000s, the MiG-29 air superiority fighter and the Su-30 air dominance fighters, along, of course, with the Rafales, there's a very big signal that's being sent out, Shiv. And this isn't just posturing, this is very real. The threat is very real. Also the fact, Shiv, look at the messaging that's happening. Apache helicopters, the Indian Air Force has just put out a message. De Shiva barmoh ehe shubhkarman se kapahu na taru na daru arisoh jab jaye larau nischay kar apni jeet karau. The Air Force is sending out a message that they are not afraid when they go into combat. They are trained to fight and win. So Shiv, Ladakh remains on razor's edge. The fact that China is not coming back for dialogue is because we are on commanding heights. It's because we enjoy a kind of, if not the same level, from what I've been told by our sources, we are on a superior position as of now, and not just on the south and north bank of Pengong So, but also elsewhere. And that's why China is reluctant to have a dialogue. In their desperation, Shiv, will China escalate further remains the big question at this point of time.
Are there still hotline conversations happening between brigadiers or any other officers on the ground, Gaurav, or have communications stopped?
So at the level of brigade commanders, and fortunately that confidence building measure is still in place. The brigade commanders are in touch with each other. You've reported, Shiv, how there have been heated exchanges between the brigade commanders. There have also been heated exchanges at other level, because India is now exposing China completely. All the lies that China has been making, has been saying all along, and blaming India. And Shiv, there appears to be a disconnect, or at least that's what comes out in public domain, between what Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, was saying in Moscow and what their army is saying, either on ground or through their statements. China wants India to unilaterally pull back from the south bank of Pengong So and also pull back to Finger 1, which India says is completely unacceptable. So this is where this India-China dialogue, at least as of now, appears to have become a dialogue of the deaf, Shiv.
Very interesting, and this is a razor's edge in so many ways. I'm still looking for more phrases that can adequately describe how volatile the situation there is. 7 days, everything can change over there. Is China recuperating? Is China reinforcing its positions? Is it planning something big? Is it waiting to try and change some facts on the ground to return to the talks table in a position of greater strength? Many indications, but very little clarity. Gaurav and Abhishek, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me from Ladakh. They continue to report from the front lines of this unfolding story. Remember, winter is not coming. It has already arrived in Ladakh. And India today is on the front lines of Ladakh, bringing you ground reports of how the Indian forces are preparing for what promises to be the most hostile winter since the 1962 war. Abhishek Bhalla brings you this special report from Ladakh. Winter is coming, and there's a storm brewing on the mountains of eastern Ladakh. With sub-zero temperatures and extremely high altitudes, surviving in these conditions is not for the faint-hearted. But with tensions with China on the brink and war clouds looming, this winter, it's not just the Indian Army, but also the Indo-Tibetan Border Police that's preparing for the long haul. With China building up its insulated huts, the ITBP too is well prepared. So in case you're wondering where they'll stay, this is it. But this is no usual tent.
What we are seeing here is an Arctic tent meant for heights beyond 15,000 feet. And even if temperatures dip to minus 50 degrees, troops can survive the winter. We can see this tent here. It can accommodate 8 to 10 troops. Here is a Bukhari. This can keep troops warm in addition to the layering. Water is put in here to make sure that there is enough oxygen level. This is a chimney that ensures that the smoke goes out.
But surely that won't be enough. The soldiers need multiple layers of clothing, with temperatures in eastern Ladakh usually dropping to minus 40 degrees. The ITBP Jawans will need everything from woolen socks to snow boots.
Another important thing is that warm water can be stored and it can be sipped from this sort of a straw that this rucksack has. This is what an Indian soldier deployed in eastern Ladakh in this treacherous terrain will look like. This is the equipment that has been provided. This special winter clothing and gear has been provided to each and every soldier.
With the Indian forces building big to counter and match the Chinese deployments, it's even more important that there's no shortage of mountain gear. And the ITBP is ready for that as well.
This is a very crucial piece of equipment that can pull a weight of 250 to 260 kgs. That means with this, at least 4-5 soldiers get a push to go up those heights. All this equipment that we can see here is extremely important for rock climbing.
The summer this year saw violent clashes, bullets fired for the first time in nearly 5 decades in Ladakh. And with no end to the India-China stalemate, the winter too will be tough.
There is no shortage of high-altitude equipment for the Indian forces, and along with the Indian Army, the ITBP that is also deployed in friction points is ensuring that there is enough supply of all material, be it tents or winter clothing required to survive the harsh winter in these areas. With camera person Satya, Abhishek Bhalla in Ladakh for India Today.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.